He works for Sky Sports, Talk Sport, and others too. His story is amazing. Here is episode 1 with Ade Oladipo. Ade,
Rich,
thanks so much for coming on for the very first episode of Rich's Sport Media Show. How are you?
dude, I feel delighted that you've chosen me as the first person. I feel somewhat on top of the world that you've actually asked me first. Or was I the first person to say yes?
Well, I asked you first. I've just been looking at your story and it's just incredible and inspirational going from working for Islington Council to Sky Sports in the space of 4 years. So I'm really interested to find out how you achieved that. At the moment, you're working for Sky Sports, you're working for Talk Sport, you're a very busy person at the moment. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Yeah, so my journey is a bit of a crazy one, as you rightly say. I didn't want or even think about being a broadcaster or a journalist or anything like that. In college, I studied accounts, IT, and economics, and I have to be honest, I flunked all of those. I mean, I didn't come out of any A levels whatsoever, so I didn't do the university route either. I sort of finished college and then went from job to job. I worked at William Hill. I worked at a company called Pitney Bowes. I think everyone does like a little sales job. I done that. And then I ended up at Islington Council. And at the time, I was extremely happy to be in a job, especially in a local council, local authority job, where you think those are jobs for life. And I thought, that's it. That's my kind of journey over and done with. Everyone I spoke to at Islington Council had been there 20, 30, 40 years. And I kind of felt like, okay, it's not great money, but it's a steady income. It's great people. I'm being upgraded slowly but surely, in considering the roles I'd done at the council. And I was just happy to be there. And I would say about 5 years ago now, myself and a friend started a boxing YouTube channel. Nothing special. We're just massive sports fans. He was a massive boxing fan. I was a casual boxing fan. So I jumped on board and I was like, okay, this is fun. So we filmed it. We put a few episodes out. And I'd say about 6 months into doing videos, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, someone reached out to me and said, Ade, I've just watched one of your YouTube videos, which we were filming on our Mac. There was no digital camera or anything like that. We're filming it on the Mac on the camera. Someone said, Ade, can you pop down and come and talk about a fight that's happening between Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao? And I was like, what, me? You want me to come down and talk? And they're like, yeah. And they said, okay, we'll even book you a cab. And I was like, no way, this is not happening. This is unbelievable. No chance. And I did. And that was 5 years ago. And here we are now, working for a few of the top broadcasters in the world, in the country. And even I, Rich, even I have to kind of, honestly, scratch my head as to how we've got here. Again, with no journalist background, no degree, no college qualifications. And that's why I love coming on and telling the story. And that's why I'm so happy you invited me on. Just because I think there are loads of people out there that want to get into broadcasting and want to maybe get a lot of the top jobs and think that you have to have a degree or you have to have this or that. And I'm like, well, not technically, you don't. And I'm living proof of that.
I find that some people seem to think you have to follow a certain system to make it in sport media. But as you said, you're living proof that you don't. You got offered to speak about the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Did you expect something like that to come from your boxing show?
I didn't expect anything like that. Again, I was happy being at Islington Council. I'd worked around some great people that I'm still in touch with today. Met some great friends that I think I will be friends with for life. And I just thought that we were doing okay on the YouTube channel. Started to get some views. Nothing crazy, 1,000 views here, just under 1,000 views sometimes. But for us, that was enough. It was just two friends that wanted to, have fun talking boxing rather than just doing what we normally do, which is sit down and watch boxing. So okay, we could do it. So we didn't expect anything like that. So when I went onto this channel, it was called Arise News. They asked me to come on and I spoke about Manny Pacquiao. I then spoke about me and my story and the YouTube channel. And I remember leaving the studio and the head of production walked past me and said, oh, you could have a career in this. And I kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, enough. I'm late for work because I wasn't late for work. I was like, I need to get to work. And they, lucky enough, called me an Uber. No, it wasn't. It was an Addison Lee. They called me an Addison Lee to take me back for work. And I remember telling everyone, oh my God, I went to a place, they put makeup on me, they mic'd me up, and this is unbelievable. But what it did do, it almost sowed a seed, like, okay, wait a minute, there's something in this. if someone thinks I'm capable of talking, because I'm like everyone. I thought you needed to go and do all this degree and that course and this course, but he kind of sowed a seed in me, and I think that kind of gave me the energy and the want to do a lot more videos on YouTube. So we went from doing one video a week and 2 videos a week to doing like a video nearly every day, just because I wanted more experience in front of a camera, I wanted more experience of talking. And then Arise News luckily called me back, and all of a sudden they offered me a non-paid role, and I think that's important. It was non-paid, a non-paid role of being there. They're almost like co-presenter every time they do a bit of sport. So maybe once or twice a week, I would go to a place in London and just be a co-presenter, and that's kind of where it all started. And that would be 5 years ago in June. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started from there.
That's just incredible. You seem to be a really confident person as well. Have you always had that confidence, or has that grown as your career has progressed?
It's a facade, Rich. It's a facade. I can't lie to you. Every time I'm on air, I am scared as hell. Like that, if a doctor was to come up to me and like check my pulse or my heartbeat, they would be sure that I'm about to faint. I'm always nervous. I try and prep as much as I can. I think the higher I've gone up in terms of TalkSport and Sky Sports, and I've done some stuff in Africa for ESPN. I think the higher I've gone up, I realize the harder it gets. So I do sometimes have this feeling that I'm not supposed to be here. I don't belong here. So I am nervous when I look around and I speak to journalists and they've got like a journalist degree and an English language degree. I kind of feel like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. So I do have confidence, but I can't lie to you. My confidence has been tested a lot in the last couple of years, especially with Sky and the viewership it gets. And I mean, obviously you're going to get your trolls on social media that maybe say a couple of hateful words. It does kind of make you kind of second guess yourself. But I guess for all the hateful words, I get so many positives. So look, I think you've got to have confidence in this industry. I think you've got to have a bit of that, just because you are there to be shot down, but you've got to be confident in what you do. I think that my confidence has grown, but it definitely isn't what maybe people think from the outside looking in. I am still very nervous. I'm still learning a lot, just because I feel like I've had to almost go a faster route, just because I've not done everything the normal way per se. I almost have to learn on the job a lot. So my confidence has been shook a couple of times, but because I know what I want to do now for a living and for a career, I feel like I'm a lot more determined than I would have been maybe a few years ago.
You mentioned working in Africa. I noticed you first got a break there with Fox Sports.
Yeah, so me and my partner at the time decided to go to Nigeria about 3.5 years ago. And at the time, I remember being so disappointed. She made the decision and I followed her, if I'm honest. I was like, okay, look, we're in love, let's go. And I remember being upset because I just started to make a bit of a breakthrough over here with broadcasting. But she did kind of explain to me at the time that you might get more opportunities in Africa, because Africa is always looking for maybe Africans. You know, I'm an African heritage, but Africans that speak English like myself. I was like, okay, that's quite a good idea. So we went to Nigeria. It was a hard slog. I made like a little show reel of my clips and I sent them to everyone and I got nothing. And then I got an email from a guy in South Africa called Luvrens Rensburg. And he sent me an email and said, oh, we're looking for someone to cover our boxing. And we're going to pay you X amount. And we're going to fly you out from Nigeria to South Africa. I immediately thought this was hocus pocus. I thought he's clearly lying. There's absolutely no way this is going to happen. And then he called me and said, oh, are you interested? And I was like, I am, but is this for real? And it was for real. And it was Fox Sports. And they paid me to cover all their boxing I done that for about a year and 2 months. I covered all their boxing, all their events in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Senegal, Namibia. And I think that's what really kind of grew me as a broadcaster. And I felt so much more confident. Even when that stopped, I felt so much confident coming back to London in the UK, knowing that I actually now have Fox Sports and ESPN on my CV, as opposed to some of the smaller channels over here. I felt like I could come here and actually compete and apply for jobs in Sky and TalkSport. So that was my first sort of massive big break. And the terrain in Africa is a lot harder than here as well. Here it's all nice, it's all set up, the studios. In Africa, some of the places we went, it was so difficult. So I think that gave me more experience as well. But look, Fox and a company called Kwesi over there definitely took a risk with me when they didn't have to. And they paid me a lot of money when they didn't have to either. So I owe a lot to them for even taking a risk on this guy without any experience whatsoever, really. And I always reach out to the boss all the time and just say thank you all the time. He saw me on Sky a couple of weeks ago and he's like, wow. I was like, no, no, no. Wow to you for giving me a shot.
That's just brilliant. Do you think if you didn't go to Africa and stayed in the UK, you would have ended up getting a similar break?
No, no, I don't. I really don't. I felt like, and this is the thing for young broadcasters, or even not young, inexperienced broadcasters that want to make it in this industry. There are so many opportunities abroad that might be a bit easier than just trying to do the opportunities in England and America. I think everyone thinks England and I think America with CNN and ESPN. There are so many companies abroad that are willing to give people opportunities a bit more easier than companies over here. And I felt like if I didn't get that experience, I would never have the confidence to even apply for a Sky job. And I think Sky would have looked at my CV and they would have said no degree, no A levels, no experience on a big broadcaster. Like, what are you even doing applying for roles here? But the fact that I didn't have no degree and no experience, but I had ESPN and Fox, kind of made him feel, okay, he's got something. Let's give him an interview. If it wasn't for Fox and ESPN, I would, to be fair, I wouldn't have even applied. But I don't think I would even got through the front door.
Was it much different working in Africa to the UK?
Um, yes, I think it's slightly harder. I don't think it's as organized. Like now, I've been at Sky for just over a year. I can see how organized Sky is. Sky sends you briefings 3 or 4 days before. You know exactly what you're doing. Everything is timed. There's rehearsals. Everything is done for you. You get a laptop in the post. Your earpiece gets sent to you. They really make sure that you come to the studio and you're fully equipped. With Africa, it was almost a case of you have to come yourself. We're not going to give you everything but a microphone and a paycheck. Everything else is you. And that's not to, discredit them, but I think like it's a bit harder over there. But I think that tough love, so to speak, is what made coming over here and going to Sky not as scary as I thought it would be. I was like, wait a minute. I've done way more than this in Africa. So when I did go to Sky, I was like, this is actually quite easy. And that's not me taking the mick out of Sky, but it was because Africa was so much more harder. And plus, I was working in different countries, like I said. So you had the language barrier in some of these countries as well. And I worked in Nigeria. I do speak a bit of Yoruba, which is one of the Nigerian languages, but not fluently. So I had to kind of get better at that. English was a lot of the people's second languages in the countries I went, so communication was quite difficult. So I feel that experience in Africa kind of prepared me for everything I got or everything I do now with Talk Sport and Sky Sports.
So you worked for Fox Sports, you worked for Kwesi in Africa. I noticed you said on your YouTube channel that 2019 was a tough year for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, 2019 was extremely difficult. So unfortunately, Kwesi kind of went under. And Kwesi was like my regular source of income in just my regular source of income. So Kwesi went under. I think they owed me at the time around £5,000. That wasn't a huge amount of money, but for freelancers, you almost are living from job to job and check to check. And that's kind of how it starts at the beginning, right? You're just trying to search for that job and that bit of money everywhere. I was quite lucky as a freelancer that Kwesi was regular work. So I think I almost took it for granted that, okay, I had this company that was paying me every single month. That stopped. And I had to come back home to London and I had no work, literally. It's almost like I was this new face in London. So yes, I had the ESPN and Fox experience behind me, but no one over here knew who I was. I was like, okay, who are you? So I was trying to get jobs and the door was being firmly shut in my face. And then the money just dwindled. It went. And then I almost had to second guess myself. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe, you kind of walk back with your tail behind your legs and go back to Islington Council and ask for a job again. And it got very close to that. So I have a picture in my phone and it's, I think I've even got it. And it's at 30, it's called 3823. And that's the amount of money I had left in my bank account. So it's it's a screenshot of my bank account balance. And it wasn't like £38.23 where I knew, okay, there's money coming. And that was it. 38.23 was all I had left. And I had no idea where the next money was coming from. So I was so close to either going to the job center or just going back to normal work. And I really didn't want to do that because I felt I'd come so far in terms of this broadcasting experience. But I thought, okay, maybe I did need to get a degree. Maybe I did need to do better in A-levels. Maybe I do need to get a journalism degree because nothing's working. And then right at the end, I saw an advert on LinkedIn for a Sky Sports News presenter. And I knew I wasn't good enough for a presenter. Not good enough. I didn't have enough experience. I applied and I thought, why not? Right? What's the worst that can happen? Right now, there's no money in the bank. We're gonna have to go and grovel to my mum in a minute. And I got an email back saying, okay, you've been chosen for an interview. And I was like, oh my God. Like, really? I went there, I done the interview. I did it okay, but I knew I didn't get it. But then they called me back and said, okay, we want you to go and audition for the January transfer window. We love your energy, blah, blah, blah. And then I got that. And then I thought, wow, we've gone from, honestly, that's when I think, I'm not joking. I remember the guy's name's Chris Siddle, the producer, sorry. He called me as I was walking around Stratford and I nearly cried. I think I might have, just because of the whole journey of coming into this industry. And for me, Sky Sports is the biggest, especially in this country anyway. To go from that to being broke and then to get the call saying Sky Sports actually want you, it was just, I was overwhelmed. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exact the day, and I'll never forget that. And yeah, that's when I realized anything is kind of possible if you put your mind to it and really graft. And I feel like I've been grafted ever since. The opportunities are coming now, Rich, but I think people, obviously, look, you followed my journey, but there's some people that are probably looking at me on Sky now or hearing me on TalkSport and not knowing it's going to get tough. You're going to have some rocky times. And I had some really rocky times. And I'm almost getting the fruits of my hard work now. But there was a long period where there were no fruits. And the only thing that was paying the bills was the YouTube. And the monetization from the YouTube was paying the rent. Other than that, there was no money coming in.
That's just an amazing story of 1 year. And that was, of course, prior to 2020 and the pandemic hitting.
Crazy. You know what's even more crazy? It's because obviously, look, 2020 was a tough year for everyone. So I feel weird saying it was actually a great year for me. Like, it was my breakthrough year in this country, like in terms of work. So as everyone is struggling, I almost don't want to talk about my success because I know it's really hard out there for people right now. People losing jobs, people losing their lives. And here I am. And this has actually it was a fantastic 2020. And 2021's continued on that vein. But equally, I know for other people, it's been the hardest of years as well. But for me, it's been an amazing year. Honestly, 2020 was absolutely incredible. BT Sports reached out to me. I do a podcast with BT Sports every 2 weeks. It's just like, what? Andy Cole has my number and calls me for our show on Talks. I'm like, how? Andy Cole? Like, what's going on? It's just surreal. Honestly, it's surreal. You can tell I'm excited because I still don't understand like how this has happened.
Well, the main thing is it has happened, Ade. It's great to hear that excitement for the job too. Before you went to Sky Sports, had you had much broadcasting experience in football specifically?
Not really. And this was the interesting thing with it because my wheelhouse is boxing and MMA. I kind of know those things at the back of my hand, and I could hold my own with anyone, I think, in those sports. But let's be honest, this country is dominated by football. So when they asked me to do the January transfer show, there was a part of me that was like, I'm not built for this because this is football. And I know I'm around people that only watch football. That's their life. And I don't all the time. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. I watch Liverpool. I don't watch all the football. So I hadn't had much broadcasting experience in football at all, which is why I always still think, go for everything. Like, obviously, look, you've got to be careful. Like, I've been offered jobs to cover NFL and cricket. I don't know enough about them, so I've turned them down. But I do think you can go and study. And what I do more than I think most is I study. So like even now I read books. Like, I've got Carragher's book here. I've got Andy Cole's book. So I study my subject now just because I know this country is dominated by football. So what I don't know, I would tell you I don't know, but I'd also tell you, give me a week and you would think I'm an expert at the subject.
And that clearly works for you too, because you certainly seem like an expert when you're on Sky Sports. And on your Sky Sports News debut, your laptop died, but you just seemed to be so calm and composed. The viewers wouldn't have known if the presenter hadn't pointed it out. What happened there?
Rich, you remember what I said earlier about the heartbeat? So it's funny because they give you laptops, and I've got an old laptop over there, and I know that laptop needs to be in the plug all the time to work. And I didn't expect Sky. I mean, this is Sky. I mean, come on. I expected their laptops to be fine and firing. So I go on, my laptop's about 70%. I'm thinking that's more than enough. So I don't charge it, I don't plug it. It goes down to 60, and I'm like, oh, that went down quite quick. And then we go on air, and I've got bundles of notes on my laptop, like tons. And then I'm seeing it go to 30, and then it goes to 20. So I look to my left, and there's a presenter called Emma Payton who does the darts for Sky, on Sky as well. Presenter, really doing great things right now. I say to Emma, what is going on with my laptop? I kind of whispered to her in the break, and she was like, oh my God, I don't know. But she's like, oh, it's at 20%, it will survive. And I'm like, you sure? She said, yeah. It goes to 7. And by this time, I am trying to, like, they're all talking. I'm trying to get involved in the conversation, but I'm trying to memorize all my notes because I know what's about to happen. And then it just goes, boom. And I'm like, oh my God, we're in trouble. Thank God Tom White, the presenter, knows how to crack a joke, and he made a joke out of it. That could have gone the opposite way. I mean, that could have been like one of the worst debuts. And it's funny enough, everyone kind of clipped that and put it on their social medias. And that's how TalkSport found me. So it's weird how it works. TalkSport found me because of that clip about my laptop fading. I think Soccer AM put it up. Sky Sports News played the clip a couple of times. So it kind of worked out in my favor in the end.
How did you react to that experience? Nowadays, do you make sure the laptop is fully charged before going on air?
I now make sure I don't like, so the way it works with Sky, so for example, the 10 o'clock show, the transfer show, you have to get there at 7 for prep and rehearsals. As soon as I get there, the first thing I do, everyone knows me now, plug my laptop in. Like you can't even talk to me about getting a coffee or breakfast. The first thing I do is plug in my laptop. I make sure my laptop's at 99% before I even unplug it and go to air. But the funny thing is, those are things that happen on air. Like sometimes I do wish that viewers and fans and trainee broadcasters could actually see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see on camera. So I wish you could hear what's going on in our ears when the director's in one ear and the producers in the other screaming and shouting. I remember when we were supposed to go on air about 2 weeks ago, and we'd prepped all our notes, and about 10 minutes into going on air, with that, we know something's going on with Frank Lampard. They're like, okay, Frank Lampard's about to be sacked. We have to, like, everyone's going mad because it's big news. And the screen just went blank, breaking news, Frank Lampard. And you just have to be ready to talk about Frank Lampard. That's kind of what it's like. It's never a perfect situation. It's live TV. Anything can happen. And you have to be ready. And it's quite scary to think about that, but you have to be ready. Like, there is no holding your hands. Sky expect you, like, this is Sky, right? So you're at one of the biggest broadcasters in the world. They expect you to be one of the best broadcasters in the world. They don't expect mistakes. They don't expect, I mean, look, you're human, but they don't expect you to make as many mistakes as the average Joe on the street. You're there because they consider you the best. So it will test you. It's hard. You just have to be ready.
And you mentioned TalkSport found you through that clip of your laptop filling. How did they approach you?
Yeah, it's funny because I put everything up on my LinkedIn, as you probably know. I put a lot of clips up there just because you never know who's watching, right? LinkedIn is that space where everyone in the world has access to it. And they saw me and they asked me to come over and sit down, and they wanted me initially. So I started at TalkSport exactly a year ago, and I started doing the paper review. So that's basically every Sunday you'd go through the back pages of the sport and you'd give your opinion, and it's for like 20 minutes. That's kind of how I started at TalkSport, which was nice. It was a nice way to kind of get my foot in the door, like a nice soft landing. And then eventually kind of they see if you're any good at talking, then they kind of upscale you to the point where there was someone left and there was an opening for someone's show, Monday to Friday, 1 to 5. I didn't think I had a chance, if I'm honest with you. And that's not me trying to stroke my own ego, but I thought not yet. It's a bit too early for my own show, but I happily go for the audition. Why not, right? And then I went for it and I got it, and it's been incredible. Like, honestly, Rich, it's been incredible. Sometimes I come home, I sit down and I have a glass of wine. I think, how the hell have we got here? Like, how have we been able to do this? But Talksport have been amazing. Like, I love Sky. Sky is the Mount Rushmore. It was always a target like when I first thought I could do this. Sky was the target. But Talksport have just been incredible with development, with feedback, with giving me opportunities, with everything. And a year's gone quickly, and I look forward to the next sort of few years with them. It's been incredible so far. But Talksport have been an eye opener for me about radio, because obviously look, I was always a broadcaster in front of the TV. Radio's very different. And so it's been a good experience of being able to kind of learn how to do both. And I'm happy I've got that experience now, because you never know where that could take you.
You're obviously the host of The Social on Talksport now. Were you shocked when you got a show with your name on it?
Yeah, I think, yes. And I am still in shock. It's funny because as it starts, The Social, it says, The Social with Ade Oladipo. And I'm like, I've got a show with my own name. Like, I'm not filling in for someone. I'm not like a co-host. I'm not a co-presenter. I've got my own show. And it still baffles me, because I'm not going to mention the names of the people that also went for the audition. I think that'd be unfair on them. But a lot of top broadcasters and presenters that work for Channel 4 and ITV and BBC went for it. So I expected one of them to get it. I thought it'd be nice to get down to the final 10. So when they said, okay, no, Ade, we want you to do an hour audition, I was like, okay, cool. And then when they said they want me to do a 3-hour audition, that means I knew I was down to the final 10. And I was like, I would have been happy with getting down to the final 10, because these other people are very, very good. When they said, no, we want to offer you the show, I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, thank you, but okay, I see what you're doing. Ha, ha, ha. And no, they said, yeah, we want you to do it. And here we are. I think, when did I start The Social? September, I believe, around September, around the summer transfer window. And so, yeah, 4 months, 5 months. What a good experience. People, it's crazy to think that you're creating your own show. Like, you're speaking to people. And I find it very, very weird. I think I'm very good on radio. I think radio is more my thing than broadcasting on TV, just because I feel like I can show a bit more of my personality on radio. I think Talksport give you that freedom to show it. They give you a freedom to speak. Obviously, you can't swear or anything like that. But apart from that, you can really kind of say what you want to say. And I think that suits my personality a bit more than maybe Sky Sports.
Do you think being humble as well as driven and confident in what you do is really important in terms of succeeding in the industry? Because you obviously mentioned you didn't expect to get these roles, but clearly you were the person they wanted.
Yeah, I think being humble is the most important in this industry. I think you can easily get ahead of yourself and think you've already made it. Whereas for me, and I think my benefit is, although I'm young in the industry, I'm older in age. So I think if I maybe came into this industry at early 20s, I think I would have struggled with the opportunities I'm given now. I probably would have walked around with my chest held high thinking I've made it. I think because I'm a lot older now and I've been given these opportunities, I feel like I appreciate them a lot more, just because of the backstory. So I think my humbleness is probably getting me opportunities, as well as actually my own being good at what I do. I think that's probably helping me a lot more. I'm always a nice person to talk to. I've always been that character. That's just me. That's just how my mum's brought me up. But what I will say, I think what's helped me the most is maybe my YouTube channel. I think the experience of talking on that channel every day to my camera phone has helped me so much. And that's almost like, I think there's a book that Malcolm Gladwell wrote about 10,000 hours. So in order to be very good at something, you have to almost do 10,000 hours at it. And I feel like I've done over 10,000 hours on my YouTube channel. And I think that's what's helped me so much in these industries. So I think I'd always refer back to the Green Chair, my YouTube channel, Boxing Talk with Ade, as being the catalyst as to where I am now.
On your YouTube channel, you've got over 24,000 subscribers now, which is just incredible. What do you think the key to success with that has been?
Consistency was probably the biggest one. I felt like I have to not just do a video. I felt like I owed to my subscribers to almost do a video every other day. And I think they've almost appreciated that. I'm very open and honest on it as well. I always start my videos by saying I'm not an expert at the subject. I'm just a fan that's giving you my opinion. I don't pretend to be a big hardcore boxing fan. I don't. I have a drink on my YouTube channel sometimes. I think people can relate to that. Sometimes just I always start the video with a cup of coffee, and I think people just feel like they're in my living room with me. I don't try and use spaghetti language. I just try and talk like a fan, and I give my honest opinion and have a laugh. I do lives now. I try and make it as interactive as possible, and I think people appreciate that. And not only that as well, but there are a lot of boxing channels, and they don't show their face, which is I find quite strange. See, I always show my face so you can see who I am. You can see my expressions when I'm talking about something, and I just think people are warm to that. But I do think all of that's all good, but I think consistency is the most important. Even now that I'm so busy with Sky and I'm so busy with TalkSport, I still do 4 to 5 videos a week, just to kind of, again, keep that consistency up. When I finish talking to you, I'm about to sit down on my green chair and do another video. So I think the consistency, and I think people love the fact that, okay, Ade is busy, but he's still giving us a bit of gold here. He's still giving us videos. He's still the same Ade from, when he was broke and using the money to pay rent. He's still exactly that same guy. And I think they can see that. And I think that authenticity has helped the channel grow a lot. Look, the funny thing is, it's good that you mentioned the subscriber count, because in a weird way, yeah, it's important. I do want to get to 25 and eventually I want to get to 100. But for me, it's not even about that. It's just, I feel free on that chair. There's so much pressure at TalkSport and so much pressure at Sky. When I'm on that chair with a drink in my hand, I just feel like, here we are. It's Ade again. Back to where it all started. There's no pressure. And I think that's why I love it so much.
With there not being any pressure with that, do you spend any time editing at all? Because you post a lot and you're obviously also extremely busy.
Don't edit at all anymore. Before I used to edit out mistakes because I thought I thought people would laugh at the mistakes. I leave them in now because you make mistakes in life talking to someone. We all slip up in words. We're not robots. There are going to be mistakes there. And I feel like, again, that's the reason why I think people warm to me. I say, oh, damn, shouldn't have said that. You're going to see everything, everything you're going to see. So no, I don't edit anymore. There was a time when I used to edit a lot. Any little mistake, I'll try and edit it out. Now, nah, not anymore. I mean, there's no need to. I think people laugh at the mistakes. I don't mind that. Obviously, look, I don't want to make mistakes. I want to make the video as clean as possible. But I think when you're doing what I'm doing, which is just reading a line and making my own judgment on it, so I kind of basically give you the news. You're going to make mistakes because you can't get that all correct, especially when you're doing it in one take. So no, I don't do that anymore.
You do a lot of live videos on YouTube now, as you mentioned. Does that really help when you have to do live shows on Sky Sports and TalkSport?
Yeah, it does. I think just talking to the camera, though, helps. I think talking directly down to the camera helps. But the lives are more for... They're more for that interaction with the fans. I hate using that term fans, but the subscribers, they're more for that kind of interaction. I used to sit down and record 2-hour Q&A sessions. I used to literally read every single question and then upload the video, and used to take ages to do. But now the lives are just direct. And so I love doing those. I try and get them done every single Sunday now. I think I'm on to my 5th or 6th one. Again, it's just giving something back to the people that have been watching for ages. And I think everyone loves when I read out their questions. And sometimes the lives are about 1 hour and 30 minutes. I still haven't, and I feel bad. Like, oh no, I want to give you guys more, but I need to go to sleep. I've got things to do. But look, I think all in all, look, it helps, right? If you can talk live to a camera, there's a good chance when you do go live and do it with Sky or ESPN, or I work for a Turkish channel as well called TRT World. I think once you do lives at home, you are going to be more confident doing lives to their cameras. It's just naturally, isn't it? Again, it's that 10,000 hour thing. I think once you do as much lives as possible, once you do go live with these other big people, it's just in there, it's just a camera. Yes, there are millions of people behind that camera watching, but it is just one camera, and that's what you got to focus on.
With having so many subscribers, do you get a lot of notifications, or do you just turn them off?
I get loads. And I try not to turn them off, especially when I get comments, because I try to sometimes reply to as many comments as possible. It's difficult, but I want to try and keep the same hunger that I had when I had 20 subscribers. And I used to respond to all of those people and like all their comments. And, and I want to try and it's difficult. Obviously, I've got so many more now, but I still want the one person that maybe does leave a comment. I want that person to feel like they're going to get a response from me. And, I don't want to feel like now that I am this Mr. Big Shot that I can't reply to people's comments. So I do leave them on. It is a bit of a pain, especially when I'm trying to go to bed, because the phone does beep quite a lot. But at the same time, I'm grateful for it, because there were times when I was begging for a notification when this channel started and there were none. So the fact that I'm getting hundreds, if not thousands, I welcome it all. Let more notifications come if they can.
That's superb. You mentioned you're doing it to give back as well, but before you launched that YouTube channel, were you involved in boxing yourself?
Not really, just a fan. Yeah, when I was young, there's a Newham Boys boxing club here. I had a couple of amateur fights. My mum put a stop to that very quickly. My older brother used to go, so like what many people do, you kind of follow what your older brother does. But I've always been a big fan of boxing. Always been a big fan of fighters like Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank and Prince Nassim Hamed in the 90s. And MMA I've always kind of loved as well. So I've always just been a big fan of the sport. And I think that's why I feel like I'm succeeding in this industry, because I'm a fan. So what you're telling me to do and pay me, I would do for free anyway. So I sat down and recorded, like I've maybe done, I don't know, maybe like something like 1,200 videos on my YouTube channel. Monetization probably kicked in around the 700 or 800 mark. So I've done 800 videos for free. So what you're paying me to do, I've done that work for free. So I just love it anyway. And I think that kind of enthusiasm has shone through. Whereas a lot of people, a lot of other journalists are journalists, but they don't necessarily love the sport. They're not fans of it. They're just journalists and it's a job. For me, this is not a job. This is fun. It's like, I'm talking to Andy Cole. I'm interviewing Anthony Joshua. I'm talking to all these professional footballers. This is like a dream. So for me, it's fun and it's a dream job. So it's not even work. It's actually easy.
What is that work-life balance like for you, Ade?
Right now, with pubs being shut and gyms being shut, right now there is no balance. Right now it's work, work, work. It is difficult, but I think when things all open, like I go to the gym quite a lot, which is not just to work out, but I've got a few good friends in there and I socialize. There are bars and restaurants near me, and I used to go to them quite frequently. There is a good work-life balance, but there is also that fear of 38-23. That thing, and that's probably why I've kept the screenshot of it. I don't ever want to get there again. So there is that fear that I was doing well at Quessy, and that all ended. So there is a bit of a fear factor with me, like it could just all end again. So I do maybe overwork, and I'm maybe guilty of overworking as well, just because I almost want everything, like all the gold around the table, because I don't want to go back to that same position that I did in 2019, which isn't that long ago. You're talking a year and a half ago, I had no money. So I probably need to calm down a bit. I mean, people at Sky and TalkSport tell me, Ade, you're fine. You've got contracts now. You're okay. But I'm like, no, I'm not. I need to work more and work harder. But I think once everything opens up again, I will definitely have a good work-life balance. Right now, though, there's not much to do. So I am just work, work, work. Even you, when you got in touch with me, I mean, it took me about a year to get back to you. So it's difficult sometimes. But no, I think it's a good work-life balance at the moment. Like, for example, when I sit on the green chair and talk about boxing, I don't think of that as work. I think of that as actually a break from work, because I don't feel like that requires no energy, no knowledge. It's just, again, knowledge that I've just naturally got. So I don't consider that work. TalkSport and Sky work. At home, YouTube, not work. In fact, that is my fun time, my time off. Have a drink, talk boxing.
The green chair is obviously really important to Boxing Talk with Ade. I noticed it was outside the O2 Arena in London. Is there a story with the green chair?
There is. It's funny you asked that question, Richard, because me and my ex-partner at the time, we used to make these chairs. So they're called Chesterfield chairs. So we used to make them. So we used to travel all over the UK and find old ones and restore them, to the point where we actually became quite known for it in London. We went to 10 Downing Street and spoke to David Cameron about it. Prince Charles came to our showroom in Bermondsey. That's in Southeast London. So I think that's the significance of it, really. Like me and her are not together anymore, but there's something about that's kind of that journey of what that life was. It's probably all in that chair, and it's just by luck. I actually never used to film in this chair, and all of a sudden I thought I filmed in it, and I thought people were gonna laugh at it, but everyone loves it, which is quite like the chair's more famous than I am. Like I've been asked by a few boxing promoters to actually bring the chair to boxing shows so people can sit on it and take photos. I'm like, what? What about me? I'm the owner of the chair. But yeah, I do feel like when I sit in it now, I do feel like I turn into another person when I sit in it. Because obviously when I'm at Sky, I have to put on my best voice. Even on TalkSport, my best voice. On that chair, I kind of say what I want. So I can swear, I can scream, I can shout. It's my chair, it's my house, my world.
Exactly, and I guess the chair is just really unique because I'm not sure I've seen many, if any, like that before. Like the screenshot of your low balance, is the chair something you look at to remind yourself of that past and that you don't want to be back making those chairs again?
Yeah, basically. That was a tough slog. We used to get up at like 3 a.m. There was a van rental company called Sixt, and we would rent a van for the day and literally go up and down the country buying all these old chairs, and then we'd take them sometimes either to my old flat or we'd take them to a lockup storage around the corner called GBN, and you have to unload them, and then we fix them, and then look, and then you hope you're going to sell them. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, right? So yeah, you've spent all your money, invested money in these pieces of furniture, but who knows? So then you'd have to fix them, and at the same time, I would then go on to work. Islington Council, she would stay home and fix them, and then you'd hope to get customers who would buy them. And we were quite lucky in the sense that it did actually work. I mean, I don't know how, but we ended up going from one storage to another storage to a very big showroom. So it worked, and that's why we moved to Nigeria as well. She started to manufacture them, and she still does in Nigeria, like with a massive team now. So look, we've done really well from it, and I guess that experience has helped as well. Just the kind of hard work, the grafting. If you can't beat them, outwork them, and I think I've used that kind of ethos at work, and I will outwork people. What I lack in knowledge and skill, I certainly don't lack in hard work and grafting, and it maybe comes from doing those type of jobs.
And that knowledge and skill, you mentioned earlier that if you're given a week to learn something, you'll take it all in and seem like an expert on the topic. Is that just how important hard work is in this industry? Because you can be clever and have specific knowledge, but if you don't keep up to date with things, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, I think you've got to, like, we all think we're an expert in a subject, but everything moves so quickly in this world nowadays. So for me, I always want to study my subject, like especially if it's a subject that I'm not too familiar with. With boxing and MMA, I do trust my knowledge just because I watch the sport so much anyway. Most nights I put on a boxing channel and just kind of update my knowledge. But with sports that I'm not too every day watching, like football or NFL or NBA or cricket or rugby, I think you can't beat studying. You can't beat chucking in a podcast and listening. You can't help but continually add to that knowledge that you've got in that foundation. I've got a show with Andy Cole now every Sunday on TalkSport. So I thought, why not study the man a bit more, which is why I bought his book, just so I can find out a bit more about him, those little golden nuggets. So when maybe I am struggling on TalkSport, I can refer to something I saw in a book and say, oh, Andy, I remember in your book you said blah, blah. It just helps to have that there just in case. Because the worst thing for me would be to be on air and have nothing to say. Like, oh my God, I've got a brain freeze. So I always make sure that I'm always up to date with something. I sat down with Jamie Carragher, so I thought, you know what, let's get Carragher's book. So just little things like that, just to kind of know that I've got something in there. For example, when I sat down with Carragher, I didn't ask him anything in the book because we spoke so much. But just in case I didn't have anything to say, I could refer to that just in case. And that's kind of what I do most times.
You obviously put a lot of work into your YouTube channel, and you mentioned consistency earlier. I saw an inspiration of yours is former mixed martial artist Charles Sonnen. Was it from watching his YouTube channel that you decided you needed to be more consistent with content, or did you already have that consistency?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, I did. I did have the consistency, but then I thought, when you think you're doing hard and you think you're grafted and I'm doing a lot. I'm doing one video a day. I remember going to Charles Sonnen's page, and look, your listeners can check it and verify what I'm saying here. 5 videos a day sometimes. Like sometimes in a month, Charles Sonnen could do 100 videos in a month. And this is a guy that is an ESPN analyst. This is a guy that's a father. This is a guy that's a jiu-jitsu and wrestling trainer. So the idea of me saying, I'm busy and I'm a single man living by myself, working once or twice a week. No. I had to get more busier. So I just looked at him and I thought, wow, this guy is doing 5 videos a day. And here I am doing 1 a day thinking I've somehow ticked a box. I was like, you can do more a day. So his work ethic, and not just his work ethic, his delivery, everything about his videos impresses me. He's everything. Even the video set up. Like I tried to copy him a little bit. Like if you look at his videos, it's quite a dark feel, and so I actually painted my front room dark blue. I got a backlight because he's got a backlight. I thought this is how I want mine to look. So yeah, he's a big inspiration to me. Another guy is Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast, a massive inspiration to me as well. Just because Joe Rogan's a bit like myself in a weird way, in the sense that there is no journalistic background from Joe Rogan. This is a guy that was a UFC commentator and a former kickboxer. And all of a sudden, he's got arguably the biggest and best podcast in the world. And again, his work ethic. Joe Rogan puts out 3 videos a day sometimes. He's interviewing people on different subjects. It's not the same subject. It's a different, one day it could be a senator. The next day it could be the head of a drugs company. I mean, his knowledge of how he interviews is astounding. And those are the kind of people that I try and learn from and watch all the time, just because these people aren't journalists. These people aren't trained broadcasters, but yeah, they're the top of the food chain. And I find that inspirational.
I found it really impressive that you did a YouTube live the night before transfer deadline day because you had to be up at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. That was a bit crazy. And it's because I promised I would. I remember, and again, it goes back to that thing I said about consistency. I promised that we're going to do a video every single Sunday, but I didn't realize that the deadline day on Monday, the transfer deadline day, started at 7. It normally starts at 10. So I normally can get a bit of sleep in, but I thought, I don't want to cancel it. I promised I'm going to do it, and let's stick to your promises, right? So you can imagine if I cancelled. I can imagine some people, not everyone, some people are, here we go, he's cancelled. The consistency, only done it 5 weeks in a row. So I thought, we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and we're going to suffer the consequences later. So, a few Red Bulls and a couple of caffeine strong coffees, and we were good. We were good. It was a tough slog because not only did I do that, so I finished that live at like 9 in the evening. I had to get up at 2 in the morning to then go to Sky for rehearsals. I had to be at Sky at 4 for the show that started at 7. We finished the show at 10. I left immediately to get to my show then, The Social, which started at 1, and that finished at 5. That's how long that 24 hours was just the hardest 24 hours ever. But again, I'm not going to complain. There was a time when I had 38.23 in the bank account and I didn't know where the money was coming from. I'm never complaining.
Where do you get that energy from? Does it come from your drive?
It comes with wanting to be accepted in this industry. It comes with wanting to make my mum proud of because I definitely let my mum down by not doing well in college and not going to university. I know how much that hurt her because I was the smart kid in school. I don't really want my GCSEs. I think she thought that I was going to be the one from the family that was going to go on and become a lawyer or doctor or an accountant. I think the accountant was the dream. And I know how much I disappointed her. I know how much I disappointed her seeing me accept and happily be comfortable at Islington Council and not strive for more. Obviously, she wouldn't say that, but I could see it in her face. And now I think I do it for her. Like, Mum, here we go. Look, there you go. It took me a while, but here we are. And it feels good because I don't want my mum to work. So it feels good working and giving my mum money. And, Mum, stay at home. You're okay now. And her seeing me on TV and showing all her friends come around. Oh, there's my son on TV. I love that feeling. So I'd say the majority is to please my mum, and the majority is also to please myself. This is a crazy journey, and I love it. I love being on it.
It's such an inspiring journey, Ade. When you went out to Africa and got that break with Fox Sports, what was your mum's reaction then?
Couldn't believe it. Um, couldn't believe it. I didn't think she understood at the time. Not many people understand Fox Sports over here. Obviously, if you're in America, you say Fox, or whoa, Fox. But I think my mum at the time, yes, she was happy, but I didn't think she understood it because it wasn't BBC, it wasn't Channel 4, it wasn't Sky Sports or ITV. But nonetheless, she was happy that, okay, you've taken the risk, you've rolled the dice, you've gone to Nigeria, a tough terrain, you don't really speak the language. Yes, you're Nigerian, but it's a foreign country to you. So I think she was proud of me that I took the risk, and proud of me that I kind of took the, it's almost like I jumped into the deep end and it was a sink or swim situation. And I think she's happy that her son was able to swim and didn't sink right at the bottom.
That's a good way to describe it. You've been a sports analyst and commentator as well. Is there much difference between them and your other roles on television and radio?
I think commentary is probably the hardest. So I was a boxing commentator for a while, so for about 14 months or so in South Africa. That's quite difficult because as a fan, most times I just want to scream when I'm watching something happen. I'm like, oh my, but then you've got to realize you've got to put it all into words. You've got to try and sell it, what's happening in front of you. And that's not easy to do because ultimately I just want to scream when someone lands a punch. I'm like, oh, and then I realize, oh no, you've got to say something. You can't just say, oh. And so that's quite difficult. But again, these are all things that I didn't think I could do that I realize I can do. I never thought I could be a boxing commentator. Like, what the hell? No chance. So the idea that I've ticked that box, kind of, again, it makes me feel like anything in this industry is possible. Like, I never thought I could work in radio. I never thought I could do that. I never thought I could do a lot of the things that I've done. So now when I get offered opportunities, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Whereas before I'd have been like, oh, yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. Now it's like, let's go. What's the worst I can? My thing, I have this thing in my head now where the worst thing is death or jail. If it doesn't kill me or send me to jail, let's have a go. What's the worst that could happen? You mess up, you get embarrassed for a couple of days, you get back on the horse and go again.
Do you have any short-term or long-term aims at the moment?
Short term, just to continue on the ride I'm on, which might sound a bit boring to some, but you do want consistency in life in terms of a steady income so you can start doing the things you want to do. So treat yourself to a nice car, get a mortgage. So keep that steady rise going. Long term, I do want my own production company. I do want to start producing pieces for TV. I do want my YouTube channel to turn into like a podcast channel. So it is very much like a Joe Rogan where I am interviewing people from all walks of life. Like I want my YouTube channel now is dedicated to boxing. I'm going to stop that soon and let it be dedicated to anything and any topics and subjects. I don't want to be pigeonholed as the boxing guy or the MMA guy. I want it to be Ade Oladipo. Again, very similar to Joe Rogan, can talk about anything. But yeah, I think for now, just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I don't want the ego and the head to explode. I'm very comfortable where I am. Financially, we're in a good place right now. But again, it's just keeping that consistency. So do this for another year, 2 years, and then who knows what could happen. I mean, I used to sell chairs 4 years ago. So generally, who knows what could happen?
Yeah, life's full of unexpected times. I was listening to one of your YouTube shows and you were saying you're looking to get a studio at some point. Is that in line with your production company idea?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, so that studio is definitely the plan. Again, maybe I wanted it. I probably rushed into the idea, but I'm holding back on it. But that's the plan with the Joe Rogan type series that it's in my head. Because again, I think I can talk about most subjects. And I don't want to just stick to boxing when I know I would like to talk a bit of politics sometimes. I know I'd like to talk a bit of what's going on right now with COVID and the pandemic and so many subjects. But I also like talking to people. I like interviewing people. I like having a dialogue and a conversation. And as much as I love my YouTube channel, I am just talking to myself. So that's quite difficult to do. So I do want, once the pandemic shuts down and we can all eventually get into each other's spaces again, I do want a studio. I do want to set it up. I get a couple of green chairs, and yeah, it'd be nice to talk to people and interview people.
We're obviously living in COVID times. What's it like working in this environment? Is it difficult?
Um, it has been a bit difficult. There were some jobs with Sky that unfortunately I couldn't do because of the pandemic that I know was earmarked to do in the studios. That was a bit difficult, but for me, it's actually been quite same. Like Talk Sport, it's less people in the building, no doubt about that. But I've always gone to the studio again because I've got my own show, so I kind of have to be there. So and that's actually been quite good because I know a few friends that are sort of stuck in their house and they work from home and they're furloughed and they would love to get out and actually get on a train and go to work. So I guess I am quite fortunate that I can actually get a bit of fresh air and work and see people in the studios and in the offices. And so I'm grateful for that. But nothing really has changed. Again, I've lost a couple of bits of work. I was supposed to go back to Africa and do some stuff for ESPN. They were supposed to start their boxing again and they wanted me involved. They had to put that on hold. So that's a bit disappointing just because it's always a good experience to go abroad and work, especially now that I'm a lot more experienced than I was. So that's the only couple of things. I think a lot of freelancers have lost work, but I've been very fortunate that it's actually worked the opposite. I've actually got more work just because I'm able to go to the studio. So I've been lucky.
And for people looking to break into the sport media industry, whether they're a student or simply looking for a career change, what would be the key piece of advice you would give to them?
Um, I think it's different now. I think you don't have to necessarily aim for the broadcasters like what I thought you did. Like my mindset would have, if someone asked me this question 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I'd have said, oh, okay, you need to get a degree. And, I'd have given the typical answer. Now, with the emergence of YouTubers and guys putting stuff out on Instagram, you are your own destiny. You can control your own destiny. So I would always say to my first port of call to anyone would be start a YouTube channel. Like that literally is more important for me than getting a journalist degree. Start a YouTube channel, and that will help you in two things. A, it will help you become more confident in front of a camera. And that you could have 1,000 journalist degrees. If you get in front of a camera and you start stuttering, you're out of the door. So get in front of a camera, which YouTube would allow you to, and just start working on you and start working on your own personality. What I think people are guilty of in this industry is seeing someone and almost copying them because you feel that's the thing you think works. No. Start trying to find who you are and talk how you want to talk. So yeah, start a YouTube channel, accept free work. And that's key. Everyone wants to get paid. Like I will tell you now, from the pay-per-view that I used to do for Talk Sport, my pay was £35. That's how much they paid me. And I thought, well, what do you mean 35? I work for Sky Sports. I did it. I mean, when I first started, I used to work for Arise News for free for all of 7 months, not one penny, but I got the experience. I done a few things for London Live. Even to this day now, I do free stuff for CNN, just because, again, it's the experience and it's CNN. A lot of free work is out there. You just got to take it. A lot of local newspapers, local stations, local broadcasters need free. They need workers that are willing to do stuff for free. Always approach them. And then once you get all that free work, you can put it together in a show reel. That's what I did. So always do free work. Don't be ashamed of it. Free work doesn't mean crap work. It just means that these broadcasters don't have a budget. So do that, and then you'll be surprised where that takes you. So number one, YouTube. Number two, free work. Number three, the most important, consistency. If you want to go for this, go for it. Don't be afraid of anything. Keep going for it. And finally, and it's probably what helped me the most, go abroad. Have passport, will travel. Like there are so many of these countries abroad that have TV stations that are willing to pay you to get out there and work for them. Go abroad, get your experience, and then come back a more confident person. So look, there are so many ways to skin a cat, but I don't think people should think it's degree. I mean, those things help. Let me not like construe what I'm trying to say. Those things help, but they're not the only way to get into this industry. There's so many ways. And like you said, Richard, I'm living proof of it because here I am 5 years ago, Islington Council, taking your calls on council tax and parking, to Sky Sports, Talk Sport, ESPN, CNN, Fox, all the rest of them.
I think that point on free work is really important because you're working for free at the time, but it becomes extremely valuable as when you go for jobs, they tend to look for experience.
This is it.
Nowadays, loads of people have degrees in sports journalism and related subjects, but if you don't have that experience, you're less likely to get hired.
If you don't have the experience, it, it, like it's difficult to get the experience. This is like you've got to come, yeah, with a degree. Fantastic. I mean, look, if you can have a degree and some experience, and I mean, then you're top of the food chain. But they want experience. Experience is so key. And like I said, there are so many local stations. Like even football clubs have their own channels now, and they're always looking for people that are confident on camera to do some free work for them. Or you can even approach the broadcasters and talk about shadowing. A lot of broadcasters, obviously not now during the pandemic time, but a lot of broadcasters normally offer a shadow. So you just shadow a presenter, a journalist, or an editor for the day. And again, you get that experience. You can speak to people like myself and ask them to be your mentor. I've got mentors. I've got a guy that works for the Daily Mirror called Darren Lewis. He's my mentor. So any stress or where I go to him. So there's so many different ways to get into it. But the first thing is the YouTube. I can't explain how important that is. Again, what book is it? I think it's The Power of Habit, or one of these books here that I've got here. No, Outliers. This is the book, Outliers, by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about everything being possible, the story of success, 10,000 hours. It's so important. And he's right, because I've done well over 10,000 hours on the green chair. But yeah, got to do the 10,000 hours. And I think the only way you can do 10,000 hours is by setting up your own YouTube channel and just doing constant videos. You're not going to get 10,000 hours of work experience. It's just not possible. But 10,000 hours of your own channel and seeing that grow and seeing the excitement of hitting 1,000 subscribers and then maybe even getting a bit of money through monetization is a fantastic feeling. And I think that's the best way to go.
It's been incredible to have you on for the first episode of this podcast and hear your inspirational story, Ade. Thank you very much.
Honestly, Richard, thank you so much. Congratulations on starting this. I think it's a good thing. I think people do want to hear these stories because I think people look at broadcasters and almost feel like it's impossible to get there. Like it's almost like no, it's not impossible. It's easy to get there. In fact, just got a graft. That's all it is. A bit of graft, a bit of hard work, and everything's possible.
Thank you for listening to episode 1 of Rich's Sport Media Show. If you enjoyed, make sure to look out for the following episodes. We're also on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook if you would like to follow for regular content.